Coming up on Beers in the Shed, we take a deep dive behind the scenes in some of the wildest recoveries and bush mechanic fixes we've ever done.
And not only that, we hear from you guys, the audience, and all your best bush mechanic fixes and all the stuff in the shed that you normally love, the fails, the giveaways, and there's some awesome deals to be had as well.
Well, Jesse and I have just finished a real tough weekender in the Glasshouse Mountains.
Oh mate, that was an unreal trip. But did we have our fair share of breakages and bush mechanic fixes?
It was about time we take you behind the scenes on some of our wildest ever bush mechanic fixes. There's a whole stack of questions that usually come in that people want to know more about the backstory. We get a car fixed, we get it back on the road. There's usually a wild story that goes with it. I'll tell you one quick story if it's cool. Down in Tassie, I was driving along, my belt started squealing in sooty, right? And next minute, all my lights come on the dash, which usually signals that the alternator's gone. And I thought, oh, that'll be about right. I heard the belts go. Had a quick look under the engine bay. All my belts are completely loose. The alternator's been moved off, and the bolt that actually tensions the alternator snapped. So what I did is I grabbed the ratchet strap on the alternator and I ratcheted off, I think, my steering box, got it nice and tight with the belts.
And used that as a tensioner, so the belt was tight.
As the tensioner, and that ratchet strap saved me, and I drove home like that.
That's unreal.
And then, I guess the amount of time steering components or suspension components.
I was going to say steering or suspension, yeah. Like we've had a few panards rip out. I think you said you even had a steering arm when you're in the camera car. Just, yeah, it's good for holding things where they're meant to be.
That was a cool story because it's a lot of things you guys don't get to see. Like I was driving the camera car, couldn't finish filming. There's no cameras whatsoever. I was driving around on this dirt road, doing about 80 Ks on the PDR, and next minute, steering goes, and I get a flat tire at the exact same time and I spear off the PDR, right? I'm in the camera car, so you can imagine I've got about 4 tools to use.
Yeah, and there's not a Repco around the corner on that road, is there?
I was by myself in the camera car. I've got a flat tire and my steering arm is off. It's
pulled the steering arm go through the tyre?
Yeah, it went through.
Oh, wow.
It went through and actually pierced the tyre and speared me off the road. And so I've got, like I said, I've got nothing with me. Ended up jacking the vehicle up, changing the tyre. Then I had to sort the steering out. Ratchet straps. I took the ones off there was a bunch of swags on the roof. I managed to ratchet strap that up. And then my next biggest drama, Jesse, was I still had about 150, 180 Ks to go to Bramwell, and they start happy hour at 5 PM.
Oh, so you had to be there by then?
So I couldn't go very fast, and I had to keep I couldn't really steer a lot, so I limped that thing back into Bramwell. I was there at 5:30, still made happy hour, and it was one of those stories that no one will ever know. Down in the high country is the first time I've ever heard of one of our vehicles getting left behind. You obviously went back to get it.
The camera car did a clutch.
So the camera car, we try and take the B tracks for most of the time with that vehicle.
Well, sometimes we even, like on a tough trip, we parked it up and did other tracks, but this, we were going A to B. It had to do what we had to do. And we were winching and the battery was dying and the boys had to ride the clutch because we were breaking winch ropes and the clutch just let go, went through a water hole, went to go out the other side, it was a bit steep and slippery, nothing. And we were in the middle of a track of consequence and we didn't really have any big vehicles to, if we had the Dirty 30 or Sooty or something, we might have been able to drag it out. But
the N70 with a broken CV.
N70 was in two-wheel drive.
Two-wheel drive.
We had a Suzuki, which isn't going to tow the camera car. And all the other cars had their own little unique problems and were limping. So we had to call in the big guns. I've got a few mates in Victoria because there's so many cool GQs down there.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of my mates' brothers, Jesse, he works for Admiral Towing and that's their specialty, recoveries in the high country. So we found a spot where we could get some reception, told them, I was obviously on speaker, and I could hear everyone laugh. They just laughed. They're like, you got a car in that spot with no clutch? I'm like, yep. And they called us back in about half hour. I said, yep, we'll be there at 8 in the morning.
Oh yeah?
It was 13 hours door to door for those boys and they got the camera car out.
Another time, so we keep talking about Tasmania. I think if we do for a reason, it's such a tough trip. I was down there one time doing a $1,000 track and there was a bloke driving a Raptor Ranger. Now, a lot of you guys will probably remember what happened here, but that was one of the times I was genuinely concerned we were not going to get this vehicle out. It did the steering and the wheels were one wheel was just floppy. It just couldn't, and if you've ever done a $1,000 track, it's not a straight track. It's got about 1,000 turns.
Heaps of detours around bog holes and stuff too.
It's just ridiculous. So you need your steering. There's no two ways about it. And if you've ever had like a dead vehicle, right? So an engine's gone, a gearbox gone, something like that, you can usually skull drag the vehicle out as long as it's got steering. When they have no steering, it's really hard to get a dead vehicle out. But this one had drive, but yeah, like I said, no steering. So again, multitude of ratchet straps. We basically held one wheel in place, so it couldn't turn. The other one could turn.
Use the other one to steer it. Yeah, that's.
And every now and again we needed to use the winch just to move the front around or whatever. But we went through probably 6 or 7 ratchet straps, but got that vehicle out on its own steam, which was...
That's a good effort,
I remember just sitting in the mud that day, just going, like I don't think we can get this one out.
And you're a long way from anywhere, and then the bush is so dense, like you feel like you're a million miles away, even though you're not too
100%.
far from Waratah, but yeah, you feel like you're a long way in.
Now, I want to take a bit of a deep dive behind the scenes. Again, a lot of you guys don't get to see this, is where you guys actually help us out a lot. And I think it's the four-wheel drive community as a bit of a general.
It's
because
unreal the power behind it. A few people at shows would know this, but not many people know this story. Last year when I took my GU to Cape York, it lasted all of the filming, perfect, beautiful. Probably about 20 minutes after wrap filming, my flex plate sheared off. And unfortunately, it was a low point in my life. I had to get towed about 800 kilometres by Jock in his Land Rover.
Would have been tough.
So I needed a BMW part. I knew my mate had one in his shed on the Gold Coast, but I was getting my car towed back to Cairns. I just put a call out on Instagram. A fella I'd never met from the Jimny community messaged me, hey mate, I'm actually flying to Cairns tomorrow. Where do I need to pick this part up? He drove to my mate's house, picked up this flex plate, flew to Cairns. I never got to meet this guy because he was out snorkeling, went to where he was staying.
He's just going on a holiday.
Yeah,
just
going on a
happened
holiday.
to work out.
But he went out of his way to grab a flex plate for me. He left it at the front door where he was staying. I picked it up, got my car fixed, and drove it home the next day. And it's just,
How good is that, isn't it?
I've never met this bloke, and it's just so kind.
I think that's pretty common in the four-wheel drive community, people helping each other out. Another time I was on the telly track in the farm truck. I managed to just touch, I think my fan, I kept breaking my fan, if you remember.
I remember that one, yeah. Graham was in the G60.
Yeah, I ended up tying it off with a ratchet strap. Ratchet straps come back in the story again. I tied the old fan off with a ratchet strap so it wouldn't spin during water crossings. Anyway, before I sort of learned that trick, I snapped basically all the fins off it, and there was a dude on the other side of Nolan's who had a 40 series, and he had a spare fan behind his seat.
It was brand new too.
Brand new.
Yeah.
And I said, mate, you know, he said, yeah, look, take this one, and I replaced it obviously with a new one.
A bit of beer currency was exchanged on that day.
But, you know, another time where someone's helped us out.
Yeah.
There's been so many, I probably couldn't name them all, mate, but where people have helped each other out. What I like to ask the people, when is a time that another four-wheel driver has just helped you out from the kindness of their own heart? Let us know in the comments below, and I bet you nearly everyone watching has got a similar story like this.
Whether it's a part, whether they help you get unstuck,
Changing a tyre.
Whether they change a tyre, whether they help you navigate up a track, just everyone seems to be so friendly, and I love it. That's one thing I love about the four-wheel drive community.
Absolutely. Recently, we worked with Marta Cars for Cancer to design what we think the ultimate touring setup is, and one lucky person's going to win that. You better check this one out, Jesse. It's insane.
Sounds good.
We've teamed up with Marta Cars for Cancer to build the ultimate four-wheel drive rig. How do you reckon we've done? This is a brand new 79 series Toyota Land Cruiser V8, the last of the V8s. In fact, it's got over $160,000 worth of modifications to this thing. We've topped the chassis, we've extended it, we've put a coil conversion in the back, a MITS canopy and tray package with red arc gear all through it, bar work, lights, winch. It's been built with one idea in mind, to be able to tour the entire country in absolute style. And behind it, you'll be tying this Lifestyle Campers Recon. Now get a load of this, we've even matched the colours together and even the wheels. And you can go to some of the most amazing campsites in absolute luxury. If that wasn't cool enough, you'll also be getting $100,000 of gold bullion. So do yourselves a favour and jump onto the website, carsforcancer.com.au. Get yourself a ticket, they're only $30, and all that money helps vital cancer research and patient care at MARTA. So make sure you jump onto the website real quick, because I've got a feeling this one is going to sell out fast. And mate, we also asked the audience what their favourite bush mechanic fixes were they've seen on the show. I remember this one, it was recent actually, when you cut up a bit of timber to use as a bump stop for your GU.
I actually did that in my GU the year before in Cape York as well.
Oh, did you?
Because I had to take the photographer and I didn't know, so I had heaps of extra weight and it would pop my flares off. Same thing, it worked a treat. Obviously it's good for temporary, but
exactly.
You got to think outside the box sometimes.
Sometimes when you're out in the bush, you got nothing else but to use a bit of timber. And it's pretty funny, eh? Fixing Tony from GME's GQ when the winch wrapped around the drive shaft in a big bog hole.
You couldn't script that to happen. That was so unfortunate.
Back then, I remember seeing that happen, and I've just shook my head. I've never ever seen anything like it. And I guess you got to expect the unexpected out in the scrubs. Sometimes things happen that you might be doing this for 20 years, but you've never seen a winch hook go through a window, wrap around a prop shaft, and then even snap the transfer input shaft.
It's crazy. And obviously, that was a new setup, and they refined it now. That can't happen again, but it was just so unfortunate. By the end of that trip, Tony had that many spare parts in the back of his car. He could nearly build another one.
He had a full transfer case. I think he had a radiator.
Yeah, he had a couple of winches. He had a fan.
Oh yeah, the rugby ball shock repair. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that was recent in the desert. I was same thing. I was bottoming out. I didn't have a chance for any timber, and it was the shocks weren't that great. It was a funny story. We filled up with fuel because we bought so much fuel. The servo had a deal. If you got this footy, if you bought over a certain amount, and we had 2 footies. And I just was sitting there, I think we were kicking the footies around, And I thought, these might fit in the core springs of the Padge. Fair enough, we let them down, pumped them back up, and they worked as airbags. For the time they worked, it was unreal.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they only worked for about a day and they blew out. I think we might have put too much pressure in there, or the top of the core might have cut them, but they did work.
They might not be rated for a Pajero.
Yeah. I remember one that was pretty crazy, and I thought it was going to be a bit of a showstopper when I saw it, was the radiator on Sooty in the Umbagari track.
Yeah.
That is about as remote as you can get. When I saw that, I thought showstopper, but you got it sorted?
Yeah, well, I thought this is one of those times we won't be able to fix it when you do a radiator. And it wasn't just, I remember I was driving along. We just finished like a pretty epic winch scene, started driving, and I noticed my temp started going up.
Yeah, that's never a good sign.
It was overheating like a champion, and I started smelling coolant, and I'm like, what is going on here? What had happened is my fan had gone through the radiator. So a bit of a pain, it must have flexed through something, and it's gone through the radiator, and it's cut probably 4 of the little fins coming down there full of coolant, and basically dumped all my coolant. Of course it was overheating. I was lucky I didn't do an engine, to be fair.
Yeah.
By the time we'd taken the radiator out and sort of come up with a bit of a bush repair, we got each one of the fins, like we cut them all down and folded them all back up, wrapped them to try and make it so the coolant wouldn't come out. And then I had some liquid nails. And at this stage, I'm throwing everything I've got at it.
Liquid nails?
I had liquid nails. And the only reason I had liquid nails, I bought it as the last thing I bought before I jumped to the Umbagari track, is because I had a bit of conduit tubing going up to some roof lights on Sooty, and it had sort of come away from the A-pillar, and it was like dangling near my window. It was really annoying.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll get a bit of liquid nails and I'll just stick it in there. So I had this whole tube of liquid nails.
Come in handy, didn't it?
Which was pretty fresh. And just sat in the door, and I didn't think much of it. We made like a little thing up, put stacks of liquid nails up, let that set, and that takes about 12 hours to cure. So radiator's out, we'll let it cure overnight, put it back in, let it cure inside the vehicle, go to bed, wake up in the morning, moment of truth, the thing actually holds coolant.
That's unreal.
It was holding pressure. It was quite amazing, to be fair. Here's another one where Jock used a ratchet strap to put a tyre back on the bead.
Oh, that was recently in the snow. He had his bead locks on, but the inside bead actually popped off.
Oh, right.
And you know and you just can't get it right, so we just put the ratchet strap on, just sort of hold it on the rear, and it popped it back on. So that's an awesome little trick to know. It works on whether you got a bead lock or not. It's really handy if you're putting a tyre on and both beads are off, the ratchet strap pulls it down.
We've used ratchet straps like that a few times. And sometimes when you jack the vehicle up, the tyre's in like an oblong sort of shape, and it needs to be perfectly
exactly
round.
What happened to Jock, yeah.
So you just use a ratchet strap to get that shape nice.
You've got to be super careful undoing it once the tyre's pumped up, because stuff goes everywhere. A wild one on that Umbagari trip here is that time the camera car's U-bolts broke. That seemed crazy. I wasn't there. I remember watching the videos thinking you did well to get that sorted.
That was crazy. I do remember this happening. I remember there was about 400 different fixes we nearly did for this thing.
Yeah.
From fencing wire, blocks of timber, ratchet straps again, and we managed to sort of make it work, to be fair.
Yeah. Got
that thing limped into it's a spot where we actually got a mate of ours had a chopper company.
Oh, wow.
And he was more than happy to fly his chopper out and deliver us a U-bolt.
And a couple more beers too?
You may as well fill the chopper. Fill the chopper up, it's coming all that way.
Yeah.
But that was crazy. We managed to fix that, and it was just one of those things where sort of every hour it all shifted, and you have to readjust all the straps, take all the strapping off, put it all back again.
Yeah. You know me, Shauno, I love looking online, whether it be Marketplace or on the Grays auctions. Now, I was always, looking for used 4Bs, always. But I realised Grays sell so many things.
They do.
They've got hoists for sale and even boats. I'm thinking about getting a little tinny, I might talk to my mate Shaun here. He's a bit of a boatie, but they sell tinnies, they sell hoists, anything you can think of, Grays pretty much sell.
Yeah, it's worth having a look because you can get some absolute bargains there, mate. Speaking of four-wheel drives, they've also got wicked four-wheel drives as well.
3 of your picks, by the looks, all Toyotas.
Yeah, there's no bias there, mate. The first one is the Hilux, right? So 2004 Hilux. My brother had one of these as his first vehicle.
Yeah.
Same as Jocko's, essentially.
They're a tough, reliable thing, aren't they?
They're a fantastic rig, mate. What about this 2003 100 series, right? It's the V8 one.
It's got a bit of gear, it's got a rooftop tent, spotties, even muddies and stuff on it.
We've long said that they're super reliable, one of the best value buys you'll ever get.
Yep.
And this one has a really low reserve at the moment. 2014, that's what my 79 was as well when I had one.
This one almost looks brand new, doesn't it?
It really does. It was in good nick. And this thing will go cheap too. Dual cab with a bit of gear in it as well. Keep an eye on that one.
That one's got no reserve.
Yeah,
no reserve at all.
No reserve.
The thing I love about Grays is you can go and look at whatever you want to buy before you place the bid. That's pretty rare for auction places, but that's what sort of sets Grays apart from the rest. And I really like. I've bought a few things off here, and I always go and have a look first before I chuck a bid down, and you just know what you're getting. You can bid with confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you guys have heard from some of our craziest bush mechanic fixes, and that's probably only just scraping the tip of the iceberg.
Just scraping the top. But we asked you guys to send in some of your best bush mechanic fixes, and that you have. There's some rippers down here, isn't there, Shaun?
Crazy ones. Look at this first one here, mate. This one here is from Dave. Rear axle shaft snapped, and he used a log instead.
Fastest Indian style. That's innovative to get out of the bush.
Do you reckon that's a GU snapped axle and the whole wheels come off and he used a log as like a skid
that
plate?
happened to Graham here once, didn't it?
Yeah, it happened here actually with the glassy with Graham. Or because he wouldn't have carved a log as an axle, it must have been as a skid plate.
Yeah, it must have been one wheel. Like, you couldn't do that. Yeah, one wheel for sure. Yeah, that's a good one. This bloke down here, Alex, he's actually used a high lift jack bar as a lower control arm on a Nissan Patrol. That's
a good idea.
They've got holes in them, and that's clever because not many people know, but that's the first thing you should replace in a Patrol. They're not super strong.
Yeah.
And good little tip too, I've had to do this with upper control arm as well. You know them double-ended spanners, the 22, 24s, that just straight ones? They work perfect length as a Patrol upper control arm. Don't ask me how I know, but
I know exactly how you know that one, mate. What about this one? Stuffing rags behind the wheel bearing nut when the wheel bearing collapsed. So he's obviously having a wheel bearing collapse.
Yeah, right, that's innovative.
Stuffed a bunch of rags in there because there's no more wheel bearing.
Take up a bit of slop.
I just want to tighten that thing and just send it to the moon.
It's not silly if it works, is it? This one here, my mate's lower shock belt fell out, so we stuck a tow hitch pin in the eyelet to get up.
Oh yeah.
That's clever.
That's cool.
Quick release shocks.
That reminds me of a similar time with the Dirty 30. Remember in the Kimberley when my radius arm bolt?
Yeah, the front radius arm.
We were driving, we just finished, again, cameras had just been turned off. It was on this side, I think, as well.
I think it was, yeah.
The bolt had come out of the radius arm and big noise. We stopped. We were on the side of the track. I think some of the boys were further in front or
we had bits and pieces out. Yeah. We jigged around with it for about half an hour.
Well, we used a little extension, a socket extension.
Yeah.
We wrapped some electrical tape to get the exact right profile.
Yeah.
Jammed that in, used some fencing wire. Held it. But the funniest thing about that story is not the fix. We spent probably an hour and a half on this fix.
Yeah.
We got it working, and just no joke, I was on the radio. Tim from Mitch was there, and I was on the radio saying, mate, I'm surprised we haven't seen a rolled over Land Cruiser because this neck of the woods.
Not even 5 minutes round the corner.
Was an 80 series on its lid. I didn't even have to go under the vehicles. On its lid, the radius arm bolt walked straight up to it. Straight
Had we known that now before, we would have been an hour in front, wouldn't we?
I now carry spare radius arm bolts.
Out of that car in the Kimberley.
I do, in the back there.
This one here, it might be our mate from America, judging by the way he measures distance. He used a rubber glove to hold in a split tyre stem closed for 24 miles back to camp. That's a good effort.
Holy heck, that is a great effort. Imagine that. Every time you've got a tyre that's, especially like a valve stem or something that can be quite tricky to fix.
Yeah.
To get that done is, it's a good effort. Here we go. Holding my gearbox up with a ratchet strap while on the track.
Ratchet straps, how good are they?
Mate, I tell you what, folks, if you get one thing out of today's show, I hope it is that you'll carry ratchet straps with you in your four-wheel drive whenever you go bush.
Treat yourself. Go and get a 4-pack and leave it in the back somewhere.
They're so handy, it's not funny. Well, there's just a couple of you guys' stories from the tracks, and I guarantee, again, like us, it's probably the tip of the iceberg.
That's just brushing the top,
So
mate.
if you've got a crazy bush mechanic fix that you've done out on the tracks, let us know in the comments below, because trust me, Jesse and I are going to get a bit of inspiration out of that one.
I'm keen to see. I'm keen to read through all them, for sure.
Now, one of my favourite parts of Beers in the Shed is where we get to go into your shed and see the crazy antics you guys have been up to, from crazy fails to mad recoveries to cool rigs.
Everything you could possibly think of. Some of these are a bit sad, like this one here. This looks like a pretty nice new Hilux going up.
This is Thomas Shaw on Instagram.
Yeah.
And this particular part is Moon Rock in Lithgow. That's the track he was driving. I've driven that. I cut my teeth on those tracks when I was
I've driven
young
it too. It's pretty crazy. And
big old rock.
Sad thing is, it's a rugged X Hilux. So it's one of the fancy ones too.
One. Not anymore. It's not fancy.
Looks like he got off pretty scot-free with just the tub though.
It's pretty good. It's actually, yeah, considering when it all goes pear-shaped and on your side. And trust me, I'd know if you see. I can't give away too much.
Yeah.
Let's just say. This was very close to being fully on its side the other day. Here's another one, mate. This one here is from Ricky. I'm taking it Ricky was doing the EGR on the 1KD Prado, and while they were clearing some wires for space, he's accidentally snapped the top of one of the injectors. Don't you hate that?
That's when one of those 5-minute jobs turns into a 5-hour job and a $500 job.
He's had to replace all the injectors as well at the same time.
They're all new, aren't they?
I've done very similar things, mate. Sometimes you're in the shed, you go to do a 5-minute job, and next minute it turns out you've caused triple the amount of damage.
Yep.
And I've actually I've done a very similar thing to you, Shaun. I've been in the shed once and I couldn't get an injector out of sooty, and I was using a slide hammer to pull this injector out.
Wow.
It was really in there. It's come out and I've hit the slide hammer on my bonnet and caused a dint, like an egg dint through the bonnet.
So when you're driving along, you can look at that dent and remember that injector.
And even better, when I was mucking around the injector, it fell apart and the spring came out and everything, and it was this piece of parts, and I had to put sooty from something that I was just supposed to change. It was a little copper
quick
washer.
job,
Yeah, it was
never
a bit
quick.
of air out the injector, and I ended up putting that thing in a tow truck. It cost me a fortune, and I dented my bonnet. So I get ya.
Couple of fails right there.
Well, guys, I reckon that's just about all we've got time for today. But like we mentioned before, make sure you tell us your wildest ever recovery and bush mechanic stories,
Put
because
them in the comments down below and we're going to go
keen.
through them all.
yeah, we're super keen to find out. And coming up as well on Full Drive 24/7, we've got a stack of really epic content, because Jesse's been doing some crazy trips down in Tassie. You've been obviously in the snow recently. which has
We've
already
been in the
come out.
snow, that's come out. I'm not sure if Tassie would have yet, but Tassie, there'll be 2 episodes of epicness there.
It's always wild in Tasmania.
Shauno's converted the Dirty 30 to a ute, and we've been doing some tough tracks.
Oh, tough
My
tracks
car's
is-
not here, but I tried to do some tough tracks. There's
Well-
some cool stuff coming up.
Absolutely, been on Fraser recently. Make sure you check it out. The best way to stay in touch so you don't miss a second of the action is turn your notifications on and make sure you hit the subscribe button. It means the world to us, and it's free to do so. And we've got some of the coolest content coming up you can imagine, from
sure.
from Jesse's trip down to Tasmania, the real tough wheelie one with the big Dirty 30.
Real specky Fraser Island one too, with a little bit of a twist too.
Is insane. And it's one of I've done Fraser my whole life, and this is probably up there with some of the best times I've ever had in Fraser. So make sure you check out the content coming up, because it's an absolute hoot. Well, Jesse, you're around, mate.
Yep. Cheers for now. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.